Hey guys, it's Izzy, and in today's video we're going to be doing my July wrap up. It is currently the 28th of July, so there is technically 3 days left of July, but I don't have time to film for the rest of the week, so we're just gonna have to roll with it. The book I'm currently reading is The Mercies by Kieran Millward Hargrave, which I might finish before July, but the other books I'm reading I won't finish before July. So that might be the only addition, but I'll just tack it on to the August wrap up. But yeah, that's what we're doing today. Before we start, I just need to say a humongous, gigantic thank you to everyone who has checked out both my disability video and my channel in general. We have surpassed 900 subscribers, which is absolutely wild to me. I have no idea why 900 of you are here. Honestly, genuinely, my own family don't want to listen to me talk, so 900 people, I can't even comprehend. I remember being thrilled that 9 people subscribed to me because I was like, oh my god, 9 people want to watch me talk, and now it's 900, and it's just insane. But yeah, so I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who subscribed, whether you've been here for a year or you just joined today. I just love and appreciate each and every one of you, and by the time this goes up, I should have a giveaway on my Twitter, so check that out if you want to, in celebration of 900 subscribers. And also, I just want to say thank you for the love and support on my disability video, as well as the support I've been seeing on Twitter, on my Twitter, as I speak up more about disability rep and the lack of voices from the disability community and the book community, and how we need to do a better job at uplifting disabled voices and disabled creators, as well as disabled authors. I am planning a vlog or video where I read 5 Own Voices disability books and recommend them to you. Hopefully they're good. And I think I will also do a video reading non-Own Voices disabled books, and seeing if they are problematic or not. I mean, I would do a whole video on how much you hate me before you if you want to see it, but yeah, I have realised that, you've got to make the content you want to see, and if I want to see people talking about disabled rep and disabled creators, then I need to be the one to start doing that. And although I have somewhat, I really want to make a concerted effort to continue to do that and to do that more. I do have a bit of a busy schedule in September and in August and September, just because I have quite a backlog of arcs that I need to get through. So those 2 videos won't be coming until October time, but I'm working on them. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the support, and I will be continuing to talk about disability issues. As there are so few of us, well, there aren't few of us in the book community, but there aren't that many of us who actually have platforms to speak about these things. So yeah, I just really want to use my platform in the way that I wish others would use their platform, and hopefully that can start to make a bit of a difference. So yeah, sorry for that ramble. Let's get on with the video. Let's get on with what I read in July. I think it was around 17 books. It wasn't as many as usual, just because I had a hard time holding books and stuff because my shoulders have been disrespectful, and some of them were slightly longer. Anyway, I read 17 books. Let's get started. Izzy needs to stop talking. Okay. The first book that I finished in July was The Animals of Lockwood Manor, at Lockwood Manor by Jane Healey. I gave this 4.5 stars, I really loved it. It's a very weird book, but in a good way for me. It's quite divisive. I think you kind of either love it or hate it. I am very glad that I loved it. It's an adult book that follows two women in the 1940s, 30s, at the start of World War II, and one of them, what's her name? One of them's Hetty, yes. Hetty is working at a museum, and they have a very large collection of preserved animals that they need for research. So they're like stuffed animals, but it's not just like taxidermy, like it's for science. And she is given the job of supervising these animals and keeping them safe. So her and the animals are evacuated to Lockwood Manor, where she meets Lucy, who is like the lady of the manor. I don't know, her dad's like the lord of the manor and she's his daughter. I don't know how it works. But it follows these two women as a series of mysterious events and weird signs being left and things moving and all this kind of stuff is happening, and they slowly start to descend into this kind of madness and confusion. So it's sort of like a mystery with a sort of creepy horror element to it. It's not like gory or anything. It's just very creepy and unnerving, and it was just phenomenal. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. And if it sounds interesting to you, I would highly recommend it. It's also got a female-female romance, which was really sweet and just like everything I want from female-female romances. And yeah, it was a really interesting book and one that's really going to stick with me because it was just so unique and interesting, and the atmosphere that Jane Healey created was just phenomenal. And it was one of those really cool books where the setting is almost a character, because this manor was almost alive with its movings and its kind of eccentricities and the spookiness of it. It was just great. So if you've got it on your TBR, I suggest reading it. I then read The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, which is like a chick lit romance. I don't know why, I just was in the mood for something lighter after The Animals at Lockwood Manor. I just needed something fun, and this was another adult book. Weird, I read two adult books in a row because I'm not someone who reads a ton of adult books, but it's a book about this woman, Tiffy, and this man, Leon, and Tiffy needs somewhere to live, and Leon needs money, so basically he rents out his flat, but they don't just share a flat, they share a bed. Leon works nights, so he's just there in the day and sleeps in the day, and Tiffy works normal daytime hours and so is there at night. And so they don't really meet for the first few months that they're technically living together, but they leave post-it notes and sort of stuff around the house, and they slowly start to form a connection. And I give this 3.5 stars. It was a really enjoyable, like fun, light-hearted read. It covered some darker topics like emotional abuse in relationships and kind of gaslighting, as well as Leon's brother has actually been wrongly incarcerated for a crime that both Leon and his brother are certain that Leon's brother didn't commit. So it did have some more serious themes that I thought were really well done. It did keep an overall levity, and it did have some fun like British humour and stuff. Overall, I just wasn't super attached to Tiffy or Leon, and I just didn't really care that much. But it was a good time, and it was more fun than I expected it to be, because for me, romance is hard for me to be engaged with. It's just not my favourite genre. But I did enjoy this one, and it was even like, it wasn't even a female romance, so impressive. I then finished an e-arc of The Reckless Afterlife of Harriet Stoker by Lauren James. This comes out, I believe, in September, I want to say, or October. And I've really enjoyed Lauren James's other books, The Quiet at the End of the World and The Loneliest Girl in the Universe. Both of those got 4 stars, and so did this one. This was just a very unique book. Basically, it's set in the UK and it follows the main character, Harriet Stoker, who is in her first year of uni, I want to say. I think so. And she goes to this kind of like abandoned university building. I can't remember why she goes there, but she does, and she dies. And she becomes a ghost. And there's kind of this whole like ghost community within this university halls, and you can't leave your place of death. And so she befriends these other ghosts, but then things go downhill and Harriet kind of turns a bit evil. It was such a unique and engaging book. It was just so wild and so you just wanted to keep reading, like you just didn't want to stop reading, which is what I love in a book. Like, if a book makes me want to be reading it all the time, then that's usually a good thing. And yeah, it was just super unique, super engaging, and it was a really diverse cast, and there was some quality gay yearning. Harriet is pansexual, but she doesn't really have any romance in the book. But 2 side characters, one's gay and one's bi, I think. And they have like a yearning a yearning for each other, and it's great. But yeah, it's just a super weird book, but in the best way. And if you've liked Lauren James's other work, then I would highly recommend picking this up. And even if you haven't, if you kind of like books that follow a really somewhat evil, I guess, main character, I guess you could say morally grey, because quite a lot of her actions are influenced by other things, but she definitely does some dark things, and it does get a bit graphic at times, not gonna lie. But yeah, it was just a super cool book. I wrote a full review for most of these, so if you want to know more about them, then you can check out my Goodreads. I then DNF'd Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, which is the second book in the Dark Artifices series. This book is 700 pages long, over 700 pages, and I DNF'd it at 50%, so I read at least 350 pages of it. So, like, I read a book's worth of it, and I was kind of like, oh, I've got this far, I feel like I should just continue, because otherwise it just kind of feels like a waste of time. But honestly, I just could not dedicate that much time to reading something I just was not enjoying. I only gave Lady Midnight 2 stars, but I kind of thought Lord of Shadows would pick up and I enjoy it, but I just really did not. It's, if you don't know, it's just one of Cassandra Clare's series that takes place in the Shadow Hunter universe. I don't need to explain what it's about, and I don't want to talk about it for too long because I just don't really have anything to say other than I literally just want a version of it that's just the scenes between Ty and Kit, and I'd be happy. Like, they were what kept me reading. They were what kept me reading for 350 pages, and they deserve the world. So I love them, but that was the only thing I liked. Honestly, Cassandra Clare and her forbidden romances, honestly, get a new thing. Unless it's Chain of Gold. Don't at me, okay? I then read Scythe. I had tried to read this before and DNF'd it. Scythe by Neal Shusterman even. I read it when it first came out, I think maybe not when it first came out. 2018, maybe I tried it. And I just could not get into it. I got like 100 pages in and I was just like so bored. But everyone is obsessed with it. And so I was like, I must have just been in the wrong like headspace, and that's why I didn't enjoy it. So I gave it another go and I read it on an audiobook, which definitely helped. But it was still a 3 star, maybe even a 2.5 star, which I feel like is blasphemous, but I just did not care. Citra and Rowan, the blandest of characters to ever exist. Seriously, if you love this series, name a characteristic that Citra or Rowan has, apart from empathy, which is the whole reason they've come aside. Literally, the most boring. If you don't know what it's about, Scythe is a dystopian, utopian world where humanity has conquered everything, including death. And so people are chosen to become Scythes, and they kill people around him to control the population, so that the world can, keep up with how many people are living in it. And it's like they're given an amount of people they should kill a year, so it's not like just I want to kill hundreds of people today. It's very strict, but yeah, it's weird. And Citra and Rowan are asked to become apprentices, to become Scythes. Citra and Rowan, I literally cannot stress how basic they were. The most basic bitches around, honestly. Honestly, nothing. And their romance, one of the worst I've ever read, because they literally had no romantic scenes together, and then it was just like they ended up together just because that's what's expected in a YA novel, and it was just so predictable yet so dumb because there was no reason for them to get together. Oh, I just a lot of it annoyed me. I also think it's kind of weird for me knowing I would not exist in this universe because they've conquered like everything: physical health, mental health, war, strife, disease. They've conquered everything. And so it's kind of hard for me to imagine this world because I just wouldn't exist in it. So yeah, that feels a little bit weird too. But disappointingly, did not really enjoy it. I then reread The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is my favourite book of the year. Well, it's in the top 3 favourite books of the year, seeing as I read like 160 books. I can't choose one, okay? But I love it so much. It's an adult book that follows our main character Linus, who lives in, it's like our world, but there are magical beings, and he is in charge of, and he works in the Department of Care for Magical Youth. I can't remember what it's called, but he's basically a social worker for magical children, and he is sent to one of these homes for children, and he is asked to go there for a month to see if the person running this care home is doing a good job. And he spends a month with these 5 kids. One of them's the Antichrist, one of them's a gnome, one of them's like a sprite thingy, one of them's a green blob who wants to be a bellhop. It's so good. It's a story about love and found family and friendship and individuality and diversity and how much we should love each other for our differences. And it's just the most beautiful, touching, funny, happy book. And if you haven't picked it up, I literally can't recommend it to you enough. I only read it for the first time in, I want to say May, maybe a bit earlier, maybe April, but I've already reread it because it's that good. And I really want to get a copy, but they're like impossible to get hold of in England. I then finally read The Book Thief by Markus Zusak, and this is a book I've been meaning to read ever since I found my love for historical fiction last September. Prior to that, I thought I'd hated historical fiction. Turns out I love it, and this is like historical fiction staple. Everyone loves it. I, however, Didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. It was just so long. It's so chunky and it just doesn't need to be. It's a historical fiction novel that follows a girl, Liesel, during the Second World War who lives in Germany, and she is fostered by this man and this woman, and eventually they are put into a situation where they need to hide a Jew in their house despite being in a Nazi-occupied area. So it's also told from the perspective of death, which everyone seems to be obsessed with, and while I think it was probably quite unique for the time that this book was written, maybe that was really unique and had never been done before, I don't know. And although it was unique, now I've read quite a few books that are told from unique and interesting perspectives, that it doesn't hold the same power, I guess. And it was a good book. I did cry for like an hour at the end of it because it was just so sad, but I think I was more sad because I was thinking of the fact that this happened to people in real life, and this is, it really did showcase the atrocities of war. But I don't know if I was really sad because I loved the characters, if that makes sense. So it was a good book. It was just too long, and it really was not developed, and it really just did not have a strong enough plot to carry it. I love character-driven books, but even though this was a character-driven book, I didn't even care for the characters that much. So, yeah, it wasn't the literary masterpiece I was expecting. So, yeah, that's all I have to say on that. The next book I read was Loveless by Alice Oseman. I am obsessed with Alice Oseman, we know this. And, of course, I pre-ordered this book last August. Just take that in. That's my dedication to Alice Oseman. I pre-ordered it a year before it came out, and I also got the beautiful signed edition. Where is it signed? There! It's signed, and I have already pre-ordered a signed copy of Nick and Charlie because I'm an Alice Oseman ho. But Loveless. It exists. It's a story Alice wrote that mimics a lot of her own experiences as a teenager discovering her identity as a romantic and asexual. And so it follows the main character, Georgia, who is attending her first year at university in Durham, which, if you don't live in England, it's a very prestigious school, kind of like after Oxford and Cambridge, Durham is pretty much the best you can do. And she's in her first year, and she is there with her 2 best friends because they all got into Durham. But she is trying to find herself and, join clubs that she's passionate about, and just try and find a way to fit in. She's got a fabulous roommate, Rooney, who I love her. She's so good. She's the best. And yeah, it just follows her as she discovers her identity, both in terms of being a romantic asexual and just kind of like her place in the world and kind of her community. And it's just a really fantastic book. Alice Oseman is so good at getting you to care about these characters. Unlike The Book Thief, I would die for my children. Every single one of these characters, they own my heart, and I adored it. I'm still not sure between giving it 4 and 5 stars. Like, my heart says 5 stars, but at the same time, Radio Silence by Alice Oseman, I gave 5 stars, and I do love Radio Silence more, so it's like, can I give them 5 stars if I loved one of them more? I'm unsure. Still, I loved it. I It was brilliant. It's super diverse. Georgia, the main character, is a romantic asexual. Her roommate Rooney is pansexual. Her best friend Pip is a lesbian. She meets a fellow uni student who is non-binary and bisexual. They're definitely non-binary. I forget what their like romantic orientation is, but yeah, super diverse, super lovable cast, a really touching and emotive story, and Alice Oseman does it again. What can I say? She's just incredible. I then reread The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James by Ashley Herring Blake. Ashley Herring Blake is another one of my all-time favourite authors, and The Mighty Heart of Sunny St. James is a middle-grade novel that follows Sunny as she receives a heart transplant and decides that now she's got a new heart, she's going to be a new Sunny and wants to do all these things and kiss a boy and make friends and just like really put herself out there. And at the same time she's dealing with her biological mother coming back into the picture and a girl that she is becoming friends with who she might have feelings for that are more than platonic. An ex-best friend who really hurt her feelings, and it's just a incredible book. It's a 5-star read for me. I adore it, and if you haven't read it, read it. And all of Ashley Herring Blake's books are sapphic in some way. I love all her books. This one especially warms my heart, and you've probably heard me talk about it a bunch before because I don't shut up about it. So yeah, I love it very much. You should read it. I then read Far From the Tree by Robin Benway. This is a young adult book that follows 3 main characters, Grace, Maya and Jacqueline. They are biological siblings, but they were given up at birth and separated. Maya and Grace were adopted. Jacqueline has spent his whole life in foster care, and we follow these 3 siblings as they learn about the existence of each other and start to build a relationship between the 3 of them. Each one of them has a unique struggle that they're dealing with. Grace has just given birth and given up her own baby. Maya is dealing with divorcing parents and an alcoholic mother, and Jacqueline has been in foster care his whole life, and now he's got prospective adoptive parents. He's not sure he wants them or deserves them, and it's just a really beautiful book that follows family, the family connections, both biological and non-biological, and there was just so many complex relationships in here that I think was so well done, and all the conversations and themes in this book were so nuanced and so well executed and just were talked about in such an intelligent and thought-provoking way, and it just gave me a different perspective on themes. Hello, this is my face, thank you. On themes in a way I haven't thought about them before, and it was just a really, really lovely, heartwarming, touching read, and I think it was really, really, really nice, and I gave it 4 stars, maybe a 4.5 if I'm feeling generous. The next book I read was City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I buddy read this with Sarah from Sarah the Dreamer. I will leave her down below. She is wonderful. I love her so much. She's the best. And we buddy read this because it's a chunk of a book, and I knew I was not going to be able to get through this on my own. And to be honest, I barely got through it. I don't know if it's just the fact that I only have 1 remaining brain cell, or if this book was just so confusing. I would try and tell you what it's about. I'm not even sure I know yet. I'm just going to read you the blurb because I can't summarize it. In the markets of 18th century Cairo, thieves, tricksters, con artists and outcasts eke out a living swindling rich nobles and foreign invaders alike. But alongside this new world, the old stories linger, tales of jinn and spirits, of cities hidden among the swirling sands of the desert. full of enchantment, desire, and riches, where magic pours down every street, hanging in the air like dust. Many wish their lives could be filled with wonder, but not Nari. She knows the trades she uses to get by are just tricks and sleights of hand. There's nothing magical about her. She only wishes to one day leave Cairo, but as the saying goes, be careful what you wish for. So that's what it's about. It's the first book in a trilogy. I gave it 3 stars. I'm still kind of undecided because I don't know if it was not explained well or if I was just too dumb. I just didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how the magic system worked. The political system was insane. I could not keep track of anything. And I'm a practiced reader of high fantasy, so like if you're not someone who reads a lot of fantasy or high fantasy, like I don't know if you would like this book. It's a lot. It's really heavy. It was really hard to understand. I do think it had good things about it. Nari, the main character, I loved her. She was such a cool character and definitely one of my new favourites, but I just didn't know what was happening most of the time. So like, did I enjoy it? No, I mainly just enjoyed sending Sarah voice notes saying, I don't understand. So yeah, it was weird. The next book I read was I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. This was a reread because I was just feeling Alice Oseman-y after Loveless. This is a book that follows 2 main characters, Angel and Jimmy. Jimmy is a trans gay rock star. He's part of this group called The Ark, and he is dealing with severe anxiety, kind of like paranoia type thing, and he's really struggling with being in this band, and all he can think about is how he wants to leave the band, basically. And Angel is a massive fan of The Ark, and she devotes a lot of her life to the fandom, and her best friend she met because of fandom, and she is also Muslim and wears a hijab, and Jimmy is Catholic or Christian. They both are quite dedicated to their faith, which was nice to see. But yeah, this book follows their paths kind of colliding and what happens. And I really liked this book. Fandom has been a big part of my life. I'm 21 now, and my first kind of experience with fandom was when I was like 11, when One Direction formed. Yes, I'm a Directioner. That is my life. Don't judge me. I met my absolute best friend through our love of One Direction, and I don't know what I'd do without her. Katie, I'll link her channel down below. She's the best person ever. And yeah, so I really liked seeing fandom depicted. I enjoyed the discussion around the positives and negatives of fandom. One Direction hasn't been the only fandom I've been part of. I've been part of so many. I get really attached to things. But yeah, fandom has just been such a massive part of my life that I just really connect to a book about fandom. I gave it 4 stars. It's not my favourite book by her, but I do enjoy it. I then read Stay Gold by Toby McSmith. This is a Own Voices book about a trans boy called Pony who moves to a new school in order for him to kind of pass as a man and for no one to know that he is trans, because he was kind of, bullied and ostracized at his previous school. So he wants to go undercover at this new school, and it also follows his love interest Georgia as she figures out whether she can have feelings for Pony despite him being trans, and whether she kind of wants to maintain her popularity and this image that is so precious to her. I gave this book 3 stars. I think it had some really fantastic things about it. I really loved the Own Voices rep, and I really enjoy seeing the development between Georgia and Pony, and I just really loved Pony as a character in general. But I did have quite a major problem with it because there was a lot of pressure on Pony from his queer friends and his sister that he should be out and proud, and that by not being out he was kind of doing a disservice to the LGBT community. His best friend thinks that everyone should be out because otherwise, like, we're not raising awareness and it's not doing your part, I guess. And I have a really big problem with that. I do agree that people who can be out should be, and I'm really happy for everyone that can be, but I think it's really harmful to kind of make the message that the only way to be a part of the queer community is to be out and proud about being part of the queer community, and I just think that's a weird message because for a lot of people, especially teenagers who are dependent on their families and parents, for them to come out is not safe, could leave them homeless, could have them rejected by their family, could lead to sexual assault, violence from their peers, just as well as the fact that it's a really big thing to do, and it's a big thing to do as a teenager when, you know, you're still kind of just finding yourself. And I just think it was really weird that so much emphasis was put on the fact that Pony should let everyone know that he was trans, despite the fact that when he does reveal that he's trans, he literally gets assaulted. And yet the message is still that, oh, he should have, like, he should still have come out. And it's like, but if he hadn't come out, he wouldn't have been assaulted. I don't know, just feel like as a message in general, whether you're trans or like whatever part of the queer community you're from, you don't have to be out in order to feel good about yourself. Like, not being out doesn't mean that you're not proud, you just kind of have to be proud in a different way and a slightly quieter way, but that doesn't mean you're not part of the community, so I just want to put that out there. You don't have to be out to be part of the community. The next book I read was non-fiction, and it was Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Reni Eddo-Lodge. This is a book that mainly focuses on the history of racism in England as well as the current racism in England. It's had a very different history to America, for example, and I think a lot of people in England are like, well, we don't have police brutality to the extreme that America has it, but I do think it was really interesting to explore racism within the UK and our past with racism, and it was definitely very educational, and I really enjoyed learning more about the kind of part that Britain has had in the creation of institutional racism and the, you know, the teaching of that and the ingraining of that in the society. I do think it was a little dense at the start, which turned me off a little bit, because I really enjoyed like the second half a lot more, because it gave time between facts for me to kind of absorb it and take it in and think about it, whereas at the start it felt very much just like a list of facts, and it made it a bit hard for them to actually stick in my brain. So it was a good book, I just had a slight problem with the way it was written, just because I found it a little hard to keep up with in the beginning, and I think it would have had more of an impact on me had it been a slower introduction, if that makes sense. I then read Running by Natalia Sylvester. This is a YA contemporary about a girl whose father is running for president, and he has policies that she doesn't agree with, and it's basically about her standing up to her father and her family and creating her own thoughts and feelings and, you know, her own ways in which she wants to interact with the world and standing up for what she believes in. And I gave it 4 stars. I really loved it. I've always been a very independent thinker. I have never really understood it when people say, oh, it's just because, like, people just think what their parents think. And of course, up until like 10, I thought what my parents think. But from like age 11 onwards, I very much decided for myself what I believed in and what I supported in terms of politics and in terms of like human rights and animal rights. And, you know, I became vegetarian and very outspoken about privilege and human rights and politics. And I really connected with the main character because of this. I think maybe other people wouldn't so much, but just because it's been a similar experience to mine. Obviously, my parents have not run for president or prime minister, but I really appreciated reading about a girl who was kind of developing her own independent thought and clashing with her parents because of that. And I just thought it was a really fun, engaging, thought-provoking political book, and I really enjoyed it. I then read an arc of Heartbreak Boys by Simon James Green. This comes out the 4th of August, I think, or the 6th of August, can't quite remember, but this was a super cute contemporary about 2 boys, Jack and Nate. At prom, Jack finds out that his boyfriend has been cheating on him with Nate's boyfriend, and in front of everybody at prom accuses him of doing so, leaving Nate extremely angry that he made such like a spectacle of it, even though for Jack it was just kind of an in the moment thing. And it follows Jack and Nate as they begrudgingly go on a road trip together, and during that they create an Instagram and kind of create like a highlight reel of their holiday in order to make their ex-boyfriends jealous and show that they're like over them and are like fine. And it was a really, really sweet book. It was queer and funny, and the British humour was great, and it was definitely the book I would have liked to read when I was 15, 16, and it was just really, really lovely. It was so funny, it was so heartfelt. I really enjoyed the conversation kind of around respectability politics and how people had a problem with Jack because he was so out and proud and he was sort of too gay, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, people were like, why don't you just like dampen yourself down because you're making yourself a target? And I think it did a really great job of tackling that topic and kind of dismissing that myth, I guess. But overall, it was a really sweet, lovely romance with plenty of gay yearning and a little bit of revenge, just a little bit. And yeah, it was just so good. I gave it 4 stars. I really loved it, and I'm definitely going to be reading more of Simon James Green's work. And yeah, it was a really, really fun time. I then reread Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nagan. If you're new to my channel, you may not know my obsession with this book, but it's one of my all-time favourites, and I absolutely adore it. It's a fantasy series that follows our main character, Lay, and she is chosen to become the Demon King's concubine. So she is taken away from her home and everything she knows, taken to a palace, and basically forced to serve the king and like trained to do so. but within the palace she finds love and hope and revolution, and she survives her sexual assault, and she uses her strength to help her continue after something that she thought she would never be able to come back from. And it's one of my favourite books. I don't want to talk about it too much here because I have talked about it a lot, but it's just a beautiful story of strength and love and resilience and fighting for what you believe in, and it's got one of the best female romances, and I just adore it. And seeing Leigh's strength definitely gives me strength in a weird way, and it just really means a lot to me. And yeah, I talked about it in my previous video, so I don't want to talk about it too much more. And the final book I read was Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. This was the second book in the Scythe series. I'm not going to tell you what it's about because I don't want to spoil the first book, but I definitely enjoyed it more than the first book. The plot was a lot more intriguing. However, I still didn't feel attached to the characters or really care what happened to them. The plot was really the only thing that kept me reading. So it's probably like a 3.5 stars. Like if Scythe was like a 2.5 star, this was definitely a star above it. Just because especially the kind of climax was super engaging, but apart from that, it was just too bland for me. I'm sorry if this is your favourite series. I have no taste. Or do I have the most taste? We don't know. But yeah, sorry for making this so long. I was so convinced that because I'd read less books, this would be shorter, but apparently I literally can't shut up. I think it's a condition. But yes, I'm not going to ramble on any longer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!